Welcome to the channel! Today, we're diving deep into the world of Black Myth Wukong. As a sinologist and specialist in Chinese literature and history, I'm thrilled to share my thoughts on this highly anticipated game. In China, there's a widely held belief that no one has ever successfully adapted the classic Chinese novel Journey to the West into a decent film or TV series. Filmmakers either veer too far into third-rate comedy or overdo the epic grandeur, with poor costumes and low-quality CGI ruining the immersion. Personally, I've seen several adaptations, and they've either bored me or made me cringe. Interestingly, despite the rich setting and story of the Monkey King, Sun Wukong, Chinese game studios haven't produced many games centered around him. This is particularly surprising considering how many games have been made based on another classic Chinese novel, Romance of the Three Kingdoms. But you know what? It seems like the wait is finally over. Black Myth Wukong kicks off with a bang, full of promise. The Monkey King rides his signature cloud into battle, facing off against the Celestial Army led by Erlangshin, the nephew of the Jade Emperor, with a third eye glowing on his forehead. Erlang, the mightiest warrior of the heavens, arrogantly demands that the Monkey King kneel and admit his wrongdoings, threatening to level the Flower and Fruit Mountain where his subjects reside. In response, we hear Sun Wukong's audacious laughter as he compares Erlang to a pig and vows to feast on his third eye. It's in this moment that we recognize the true Sun Wukong, the cunning, rebellious, and unapologetically defiant Monkey King. In the original novel, the entire pantheon turned against Sun Wukong because he dared to devour almost all the peaches from the Heavenly Garden and stole the elixir of immortality. The game lets you experience the Monkey King's power firsthand in a thrilling battle against Erlang. While the 72 transformations aren't on offer, you can pluck a few hairs to create clones, temporarily turn enemies into stone, and wield the iconic staff. However, during a moment of transformation, a golden hoop falls onto Wukong's head, tightening and distracting him just long enough for Erlang to deliver a critical blow, turning Wukong into stone. This scene is a powerful nod to the original technique of creating clones by plucking hairs. And yes, it's not something invented in Naruto. But here's the twist. We part ways with Sun Wukong early on. As the protagonist of Black Myth, Wukong is actually the Destined One, another monkey who sets out to find 6 relics into which Wukong transformed before turning to stone. I've only completed the first chapter of Black Myth Wukong. There are 6 in total, just like the relics, but I've already glimpsed some of the gameplay from later chapters on YouTube. Each chapter features diverse locations and enemies, keeping the experience fresh and engaging. Speaking of the transitions between chapters, the game features unique animated sequences, each with its own distinct style. For example, the first chapter mimics the movement of Chinese ink on canvas, while another adopts a puppet-like aesthetic reminiscent of Wes Anderson's style. This creative choice seems to echo the structure of the original novel, where each chapter opens with poems that break up the narrative. But let's focus more on the protagonist of Wukong. Although this character shares the same abilities, staff, and agility as Sun Wukong, he lacks the Monkey King's sharp wit and biting humor. Classic tricks like Sun Wukong's infamous prank of serving monks his own urine instead of the elixir of immortality are nowhere to be found. The Destined One is a more contemplative and silent figure, missing the rebellious spirit that made Sun Wukong so beloved. After all, Sun Wukong's essence lies in his cleverness and defiance. He's known as the Monkey of Mind for a reason. His name literally translates to aware of emptiness, reflecting his deep understanding of life's truths. Sun Wukong is a complex character, blending the rebelliousness of a troublemaker with the wisdom of an enlightened being. This duality is what made readers fall in love with him. Take this quote from the novel: "Get out of here while you still can, and tell your emperor that I'll only bow to him if he grants me the title of Great Sage equal to heaven. If not, I'll destroy his precious heavenly palace." His audacity even leads to his request being granted, but of course, that wasn't enough for Wukong. Journey to the West is a satirical novel, and its author, Wu Qingyan, used fantastical images from Chinese and Buddhist mythology to critique the vices of Chinese society while avoiding the scrutiny of censors. For instance, the third main character in the novel, Zhu Beiji, a pig who walks upright, is a caricature of a lazy Chinese farmer, punished with this form for his gluttony and lust. Even the saintly Xuanzang, a real historical figure who traveled to India in the 7th century to bring back the Tripitaka, is inspired from Wu Qingyan's satire, portrayed as helpless against the various spirits and monsters. It's fascinating that around the same time in the West, two major satirical novels were written, Don Quixote by Miguel de Cervantes and Gargantua and Pantagruel by François Rabelais. In Journey to the West, Sun Wukong often mocks the entire heavenly pantheon, knowing full well that he can't be killed, and laughs in their faces. The Destined One, unfortunately, lacks the mischievous charm of Sun Wukong. This could have been balanced by introducing a companion like Zhu Beiji to lighten the serious and somewhat dark tone of Black Myth Wukong with some witty dialogue. But that's just my take as a fan of the original novel. The developers never promised a direct adaptation of Journey to the West. Our hero remains stoic and calm throughout, with only occasional expressions of surprise or fear. The witty remarks and rebellious spirit of the original Monkey King are sorely missed, but Game Science stays true to the setting and details while deconstructing the story of the Monkey King in their own way. They have every right to do so, especially since they've already worked on a game based on Wu Qingyan's novel, the MMORPG Azura, developed under Tencent in 2013. The story in Azura was based on the novel The Legend of Wukong by Xingyu, one of the first Chinese internet novels published in 2000. Soon after Azura launched, the developers left Tencent due to creative differences and founded Game Science with the goal of making their own single-player AAA game about Sun Wukong, still drawing from Xingyu's work. The Legend of Wukong has a darker tone compared to the roguish Journey to the West, delving into the psychological depth of the characters, showing their weaknesses, and exploring the relationships between them. Love plots are also introduced, which were absent in the original. In the case of Wukong, the story of the Destined One is an invention of Game Science, but the tone, atmosphere, and message seem to be inspired by Xingyu's work. To be fair, even Wu Qingyan's Journey to the West wasn't entirely original. Xuanzang's travelogue Journey to the Western regions during the Great Tang Dynasty contains no mention of a magical monkey, though it describes many other marvels from the kingdoms he visited. These notes laid the foundation for folk legends that later evolved into the novel Journey to the West, where Sun Wukong first appears. However, in these earlier stories, the characters behave differently. Xuanzang is much braver, and Sun Wukong plays more of a supporting role. Interestingly, another author, Dong Yu, wrote a sequel to Wu Qingyan's novel in 1641 called Supplement to Journey to the West. In it, Dong Yu reveals a different, more realistic side of Sun Wukong, exploring his inner world and reflecting on the illusory nature of existence. Dong Yu's tone is closer to the atmosphere of Black Myth Wukong than Wu Qingyan's original work. I must give credit to Black Myth Wukong for its authentic sound design. The game's soundtrack includes traditional Chinese instruments like the zither, flute, sun, arrow, and bells, which complement the rhythm of the battles without becoming repetitive. At just the right moments, the music fades, allowing the player to hear the rustling of leaves and the chirping of birds in the forest. The design of the bosses is another area where the developers paid homage to the original novel's characters. In the first chapter alone, I encountered the spirit of a wolf, a white-furred werewolf named Ling Shuzi, and a black bear sitting atop a mountain, representing the second phase of the Black Wind King. In later chapters, you'll meet even more familiar foes, including the iconic white bone demon, who takes the deceptive form of a pretty girl. I can confidently say that Black Myth Wukong is the first worthy adaptation of Journey to the West outside of literature. Every Chinese person knows this story, having grown up with it, and they are thrilled to finally see such a high-quality interpretation. And you know what? I'm just as excited. If this has piqued your interest, be sure to check out my other videos, including a crack for Black Myth Wukong and a review of a solid free version of the game. Don't forget to subscribe for more content on the latest games.